Hello everyone, welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers and we have Joelle Jobson here.
Hello.
And Joelle's on audio. And we kind of take turns doing SharePoint Power Hour. This is something that we've been doing for 2 or 3 years now, Wednesdays at 11 Central. And we just demo various topics having to do with SharePoint, Office 365, and PowerApps. And today we're going to do a PowerApps one. PowerApps seems to be pretty hot lately, so people tend to be watching the PowerApps Power Hours more than anything. So today we're going to have a cool little solution that first of all we have live chat going. So that's the fun about having it be a live show, is that we have live chat where you can talk and ask questions and have discussions and all that while we're having the show, which makes it exciting. You never know what's going to happen, like technical issues. But it's iwmentor.slack.com. Wow, our 5-year anniversary, Joelle. Wow, that's a really long time. Yeah, we've been around a while, and SharePoint's been around a while too. SharePoint's been around for what, like 10, 12, 13 years or something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working with SharePoint for about that long, huh? Both of us. So
Yep.
Joelle and I have worked together for years, and through various companies. And so IW Mentor is our SharePoint training company. We do SharePoint and Power Apps training, iwmentor.com. But let's go ahead and get started talking about, everybody say hello in the chat in Slack, and we'll go ahead and start talking about what our solution is today. And I'll demo it, and I'll demo what it looks like, and then we'll talk about how it works. And Chris put this together for us. Thank you, Chris. He's in the chat too. All right, so we have, this is, now, we didn't do any kind of fancy branding on this. This is just the idea, like we're showing you the logic and we're showing you how it works. And the idea is that we have a gallery and Power Apps, and we are going to use the gallery sort of like a data sheet view, like we would do in SharePoint. And we're going to edit directly in the gallery. So usually galleries, every time we've demoed them at least, usually the way they're used is just to display a list of information, but you might want to quickly interactively edit things, type something in there, and edit things in SharePoint. So in this example, we have, it's like a store that you want to go buy things in. And so what we're doing is just pretty simple demo. We didn't get too extreme with it. The idea is just to be able to show you how it works when you're typing in here. So you can just say how many of each thing that you want. And as soon as I click away from that control, it collects that information. So this is actually a Power Apps collection. And so I can say if I want, how many of each thing that I want, and it's putting it in this little list over here. And I can even go look and say I want to look at more information about a puzzle, and you could have a picture, and you can have nice pretty item details, and you go back and you can see that you have this collection, and that could be like a cart, and you do like a checkout and purchase things. And we didn't go to the extreme of building an entire solution of a cart and actually checking out items because of the complexity of just this working correctly. So let me show you some trials and tribulations that we had, and there's actually some buggy stuff that goes on in here that Chris figured out this workaround for, which is why it actually functions, and he did the workaround for the bugginess. So here is this order choice issue, and this is the screen where we're demonstrating the problem that it has. So it's got like I'll just say I want a few of these, and it collects them correctly. But then when you start trying to do any kind of filters, it goes all wonky. Like, yeah, that time it just disappeared. Yeah, okay, so here, see, that's the issue, is that it took whatever I typed in the first box and it just populated it all throughout all the text boxes. And it didn't change the collection data, but it really screwed up the way this gallery looks. So that's the issue. So this is the issue that we're solving when we show you that the solution, the one that works correctly. So let's dig into just how, so some of the moving parts in here and how this works. First of all, the gallery is just, so this is a SharePoint list called toys. I'll go view my data sources, and it's just toys, pretty simple. And so this is a gallery right here, this gray thing, that is filtering the SharePoint list called toys by the price if the price is less than this variable called var filter. So that way it's going to always just show all the ones with a price less than whatever number is in this variable. And then just when you arrive on this screen, on visible for this screen that we're on, it sets this variable to 100, because if you're going to be filtering this gallery by this variable, the variable has to have something in it. So you just put 100 because there aren't any items that don't go over 100, so you could put 1,000,000, whatever. But because the variable just has to have a value. So this way, when you click to filter like below $10, which you want the cheap to show just the cheap things, then that will I'll show you. So if I filter this, see now it's only going to show the things that are less than $10, and that button just basically sets that variable to 10. So now the filter being on this gallery doesn't really have any impact on the fact that we're using a datasheet view. It's sort of is what, doing this filter and changing it is what sort of exacerbated this issue. So now we see this issue with this number showing in all the boxes. Well, let's just show how this text box works though, and then we'll just go through this entire logic of this statement and how it works, and then talk about like the solution and how we got around the issue that we were having. So let's go ahead. And actually, I'm just going to go over to the one that works, because I don't want to show you spend too much time on the screen of the one that doesn't work. But okay, so let's go to on change, because on change is where it's actually putting the thing in the collection. And one little thing is, you notice that when I'll just reset this. When I add something, I actually have to click out of it to make it add to the collection. Well, so you don't actually have to do anything, or you don't have to click a button really to make it add it. But one thing you could do, just for the end user to feel like they're clicking on something to add it, is you could just insert a little like a little plus, and I can just stick this plus on here, and I could literally not make it do anything, just on select is false. And then that way when people type a number, at least they're just clicking out of the text box. Does that make sense? Just for them to see the number go in there. So the button, it doesn't actually do anything. All right, hope I kind of clarified that. All right, so really it's just on change. So as soon as you change this value, that's when this logic is going to happen. So let's go look at the on change here. Now this is a lot, I know, but we're going to break it down. So the gist is that if that collection, now we're calling the collection over here. Let's show what that looks like. This table over here, its items are this collection called COL toys, collection toys. So this is what we're collecting the information into as we sort of put it into our shopping cart. So that's all that this table over here is displaying. It's just the names of the items and how many in this collection. All right, and then so let's go back to the on change here. All right. Now, if for the item that you just typed a number in, if that item already exists over in the collection, then, and if the value of the quantity is greater than 0, it's patching. It's going to put that data over in the collection. Otherwise, it's going to remove it. So if it is 0, it's not greater than 0, it is 0, it's going to remove it. And then otherwise, it's going to collect. So I'm going to break this down. I just wanted to kind of give a whole, like, an overview of this. Hey, Dan, welcome. Thanks for coming. All right, so let's break this down into little pieces. And Chris, he typed this out. He's got it nice and split out into kind of nice and spaced out in here, the way he did it. So when you're writing these, when you type an open parentheses, if you do Shift-Enter, it will automatically indent it like this. So that's how he was able to write it out and keep it nice and organized. And so we can break it down. And also when you click in here, every time I click, like when I click to select an open parentheses, it actually, see how it turns gray? It actually will show me, let's see, my browser is being weird. Let's see. See, it shows me the closing parenthesis down here. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. So whichever parenthesis I select, you can see it shows me its matching one so that I can really kind of understand where everything is and what's going on. So my first statement is going to be basically if the item exists over in the collection versus it doesn't exist already over in the collection. So if it exists over in the collection, and I'm going to go over this in a minute, it's going to basically, it's going to do all this. If it doesn't already exist, so this is the more simple one, so that's the one I'm going to go over first. So if this particular item, so I'm going to look up to the collection of toys and look for this item ID, and to find the item in the collection that matches the current item that I'm on. And so if it does match, and it's going to do this. If it doesn't match, that means it's not in there. Here's what it's going to do. It's going to collect. Now, I don't want to do a clear collect. So collect and clear collect. Collect means it's going to grab information and put it in a collection. Clear collect means it's going to wipe out the whole collection and start all over and put new information in it. Well, I definitely don't want to clear collect because this is like a grocery cart, like a shopping cart. I don't want to clear it out. I just want to add to it. So I'm going to collect, and I'm going to collect into this collection of toys. And what am I collecting? Now, this is a way that we can use a syntax basically for a record in PowerApps. When we want to collect something that's a record, we use these curly brackets. And it's like for something that's a table that's got multiple columns in it. So each column in this record that I'm adding has got a colon after it, and they're separated by commas. So item title, so I've got a collection, I'm naming the column in the collection item title, and I'm taking the title of this current item and I'm putting it over there. Then I'm putting item ID, and I'm taking the value of this item. Now, because I want to make sure that it's not going to just stick the ID over there as a string, as just text. I want to make sure that it puts it as a number so that later on I'll be able to compare them, comparing a number to a number, right? So that's why I'm saying I want the value of this item's ID. And then I'm going to say item quantity. I'm going to say how many what's the number that I typed in that box. So gallery toys 2.selected txt quantity underscore 2. So what is that? So the txt quantity underscore 2, let me move this out of the way, is this, see, txt quantity underscore 2. That is this box. So the value that is in this box, that is the txt quantity underscore 2 dot text. So that's how it's going to get that number out of there. And there's even a little, let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, there's even a format here. There's a format property that you can do. So to make sure that people are only going to type a number, so you can make sure that they type a number, and the options are number or text. So we're going to make sure they type a number here too, but you still have to do that value thing to make sure that it sets it as a value. So even if you have it forcing the user to type a number in there, it still might save it as a string. You have to go out of your way to make sure that it's saving it as a value. So it's getting the title, it's getting the item ID, it's getting the quantity, and I can do something. I can even do something like the total, and I can multiply the quantity times the price. And maybe I'll throw that in towards the end of the demo too. Oh yeah, and so Chris mentioned this in the chat here. It's a lot of fun because when Chris and I, when we teach this, our PowerApps, our 4-day PowerApps training class, I'm sitting here teaching the class and talking and live on the camera, and he's back there behind the scenes answering questions and like kind of like what he did just now, where he's putting like a further description as like further explaining something that I was just talking about. So that's what he's doing in here. So what happens is, notice that and this is kind of deep thoughts, like this is really deep into PowerApps, this little concept right here with collections that we go way into in our class. But when you're doing a collection, we've found that it's a best practice to, when you're naming the columns in the collection, don't name them the exact same thing as what their names are, like in this case in SharePoint. So instead of calling in the collection, calling it title ID and quantity, we're just calling it item title, item ID, and item quantity. I don't know, Dan, I don't know if that's something that you've come across too. Dan in here is a big PowerApps guy too. But yeah, so that's a little tip as to why these are all named slightly different like that. But yeah, so I'm going to try towards the end to, maybe I'll put a item total or something like that in here. So this is how it's adding the items to, so on change, this is how it's adding them over there. So I'll like do 8 of these, and that just did that collect. And then so now we're going to go over the logic for something that's existing, for something that's already there. So watch, I can change this to 0, and it took puzzle completely out. So now let's go look at the logic of how that works. And that is all this stuff. And that's more complicated, so that's why we're saving that. So we did the collect first because that's pretty simple. So and let's look at this, what this lookup is. We kind of already went over this. It looks over in the collection of toys, and it says, is this item .id equal to the item ID in the collection? And again, if you name the exact same thing, you end up with this disambiguous operator, and you have to do the thing with the brackets and the square brackets and the ampersand and all this crap that is a pain. But if you just name them differently, then it's easier. It's just long story short. All right. Okay, so then we have a nested if here. So then we have this if statement. So what is going on in here? Okay, so if the value that you've typed in this box is greater than 0, this is where we're adding, it's already there and we need to change it. So instead of collecting, which is basically adding a new row, we're going to do a patch and find that existing item and edit it. So we're editing something in a collection using a patch. So we're going to patch, and patch is another way, just sort of, you have this concept of submitting data in SharePoint, like submitting a new item or editing something and submitting your changes. Well, patch is kind of like submitting, but just more complicated. So patch is and we mentioned patching in the last, I think, two or three Power Hours ago, where we did a whole Power Hour about patching and just introducing the concept. So this is like patching part 2, really. So we're going to patch over to this collection of toys, and we have to tell it which thing that we're patching. So notice, patch has got, when you click in here, these formulas are really nice. They tell you what belongs where. So what's your source? So what are you patching to? I'm going to patch over to this collection of toys. And then which specific record am I patching to? So this is where you tell it, okay, look up and find the item in the collection where the ID is equal to the item ID. So the item ID of this current item that I'm on, that I've on in the gallery, is equal to the item ID over in the collection. So it's going to find the correct item, and then the update part means, what am I changing? So for the update, I'm going to I'm only editing the item quantity. I don't have to edit the other columns. I'm only editing the quantity to say gallery toys _ selected, text quantity _2.text. Now, I guess we don't have to do that one as a value, but it's not necessary. If we wanted to make sure that was a number, then I guess we might want to make sure and put a value in front of it. I don't know. It seems to be working fine the way it is, but just kind of keep that in mind. If when we start trying to multiply things later, we might need to make sure that's a value. Okay, so if it is greater than 0, basically it's patching. If it's not greater than 0, which means it is a 0 or a negative number, which I'm not sure why you'd type a negative number in there, then it's going to remove it. So remove is like delete. So remove is where we can go delete something from SharePoint, delete something from a collection, any sort of list of things. So for the remove statement, okay, you say which collection am I removing rows from, and then which specific item am I removing, and that's where you have to go. So filter the collection of toys where this item.id equals item ID, and then since you need to make sure that it's expecting just one thing, so technically when you're doing a filter, it could find multiple things. Now in this case, it's an item ID. We know that there aren't going to be more than one that have that same item ID because SharePoint doesn't, they're unique. We know that, but for the formula, we need to go ahead and put this first in front of it to make sure that because it would error out if we didn't put it first, because it would say how, I'm going to remove if, but this could be more than one thing. Now, if you do need to remove multiple things, that is a different statement. It's actually called remove if, and it's called remove if, and you can just put like some condition of things that you want to remove. But this case, it's just one, so we're just making sure that it knows it's just one. Yeah. Yeah, Dan, no, I know that you already have a blog post called that, Building Power Apps from Scratch, Use Patch. Yeah, feel free to put a link to it if you like in there. Ever since Microsoft came out with that whole submit form thing, which actually came out like after the concept of patching, then patching is not something that you have to do, but it's definitely for more advanced stuff like this, it's definitely useful. Okay, so that is how this big old formula works. It's, I think I went over all the little pieces. And now let's go over some other components of how just the solution as a whole of how it works. So we've got reset. So when I reset it, it does this. Now, how do we reset stuff in SharePoint? So we're clearing the collection. Oh, I think that's all we're doing in this case is we're just clearing the collection because, okay, so how does that work? How does clearing the collection clear out everything in here? And that was one of the big issues that we had with troubleshooting the thing where it was duplicating the number down the page. So let's get into that now. Let's get into how to get around that issue. All right, so we went over the on change, and on select it's not really important. This default thing is what Chris figured out to get it to not have that buggy issue. So the default value, let's go over here. And the formula is written over here, but I like to be able to go open it up in this bigger editor up here so I can just see it nice and pretty in color and all that, expand it if I want. So what it's doing is the default value that's going to show in this text box, it's almost kind of like a loop, but it still works. It's kind of weird. So it's looking up the collection of toys where this item equals the item ID over there, and it's giving me the item quantity. So basically I'm adding something to a collection, and the default value of this box is showing me the value basically that I just added in the collection. And that is what Chris figured out to make it not show the 8 down the page in all the boxes. And the issue was, a lot of the issue was happening when especially when you go to this other page and go back, then the whole gallery would be broken. And when you'd filter it, and the whole gallery would be broken. So that was the big thing was not only to have that on change, that big, crazy, complicated one, but to have the default. And then, let's see. I think most of this was, yeah, we didn't have anything fancy going on down here. So let's go ahead and any questions? Does that make sense to you guys? Anybody want me to kind of take a step back or anything? I know this is pretty advanced. We do teach PowerApps completely from scratch in our 4-day class, but we use Power Hour for just this is more like sort of supplemental, like little specific solutions that you can peruse and try yourself. So let's see. All right, well, if you guys, I'll just see if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and build in that logic for doing it like a total over there in the collection. So let's reset everything. Reset, cleared the collection. So let's try this. So when I first collect something that's going to be the on change, and it's always funny when I decide to sort of go off script and just sort of decide to like make something up or add onto the demo, because I usually screw it up, but that's what I'm going to do now. All right, so item quantity. So then we're going to do like a cost total. And that's going to be, I don't know why this is, oh, I got to put a comma here. That's why it's all red. So I wonder why it wasn't pre-populating stuff for me. Let's see, value. Dot selected dot oops tx. I don't know why it's not pre-populating. Maybe it's just because I have this thing so big on my screen. Times oh, and then we got to get the cost. So let's see, gal toys dot selected dot cost. Let's see, gal toys dot, let's see, what is the name of this little box over here? This item dot price. Let's see. Dot price. That should work, right? Value of that. Do I need to do value of this times value of this? I'm not sure. Let's see if that works. We'll see if it lets me do just one big value. So 8 times 7. Now I also need to put it, so I can't see, so I don't know if I did it correctly. So let's go look. Of course I can add that to the table here, but let's go take a peek at my collection. Cost total 0. No, it didn't do it. Okay, so let's go see what we did wrong. All right, the value of this times dot toys selected dot price. Let's see what that does. And I don't know if this needs a value in front of it. We'll see. So let me preview that and reset. 5 times 5 is, let's see, view my collection. No cost total. Let's see. And I know I'm going off script here, so we'll see. Oh, I have another one that I want to show you guys too that's more of like a full datasheet mode that I'm going to show probably just in a few minutes after I do this. And it's really cool. It'll blow your mind. Chris figured it out. All right. Let me reset that and change my formula. Value of that times You know what I do sometimes to troubleshoot? I'm just going to put like a 2 here and just make sure it's actually doing it. I'm just going to say that times 2, and just to see if the problem is what I'm typing in that area. That way I'm just hard coding a number in there just to see if it puts something. All right. And then I do need to add it over here to this table so I don't have to keep going back here. Okay, so it did, the multiplication did work. So it's always a good way to narrow it down, right? Selected this price. We'll see, Tony. Let me see. I think I might have just had to put a value in front of it. And also, let me go ahead and add in my table over here. Let me go ahead and just add that. Oh, that's weird. It's not showing it. Item title, quantity. I'll figure that out in a minute. Okay. So we got our cost total. It's there. Okay, so now I'll go, instead of putting a times 2, I'll do like value of dot price. That's what it was. Price. Yeah, price. Okay, I'll reset it. 7 times 3. Go look at my collection. Yeah, okay, that worked. It was value of this times value of this, and then that gave me 21. Okay, so now this gallery's being weird because why does it not show that other thing? So galleries are just weird in general. I'm going to switch it over to another thing and then switch it back because, there we go. So item title, item quantity, cost total. And there we go. And that one I can put, oops, narrow it down a little. Galleries are kind of a pain to work with. Tables, sorry. I like galleries much better than tables. But anyway, so that's, there's my cost total. So now we'll do like 9 of those, 2 of those, etc. And you can see that it's doing all my totals. Ta-da! Okay, so that is the sort of grocery cart solution. And then what you could do when they're checking out of their cart is you could patch all of those over to SharePoint, just all in one fell swoop. I'm not gonna build that out because I want to show you this other solution that Chris put together for us. I think it's this one. Yeah. This one. All right, now this is more like a datasheet view in SharePoint. So this is the last thing we had was just one text box and adding things like to a cart. But this is cool. So this is gives it like an edit mode. So I can go edit multiple things in here and hit save. And it's patching it over to SharePoint like that. What do y'all think? So I can go edit each item like that. Save it. And he actually found that it works better when you do like this toggle between a checkbox or checked or not checked. So you can check it, uncheck it, or hit cancel. So you can like check it, you know, like make a change and then change your mind and click cancel and it takes your change out. What do y'all think of that? Does that seem useful to be able to have like this way to quickly edit SharePoint stuff? Now you don't have like copying, pasting from Excel or copying things down the page like you have in an actual datasheet view. And we even tried it out. Like we even tried putting several text boxes in a row and setting the tab and like copying something from Excel and putting it in there. That still, it didn't work. So, but this is just, it gives those end users this interface to be able to quickly edit multiple items like that. And then you're just saving one thing at a time. So we'll go look at some of the pieces of this. We don't have I don't have time necessarily to dig into the amount of detail of this one that we did with the more simplistic one, but we'll go ahead and show you a few things. So one important thing in here is is the display mode. So let's talk about what a display mode is. Display mode is for any given control, whether you're you're viewing it or you're editing it, basically, or if it's disabled. So each of these boxes, what we're doing when we click edit is we're changing the display mode from view to edit. Pretty cool. So when I check this box, let's go look at the display mode. So I'll go look at ball here. Okay, let's break this down. So if, and I'll do this shift enter. Let me go backspace. Oops. There. So I'm breaking this into the three different components of the if statement. So gallery datasheet 1 dot selected. So this gallery that's listing all these items is gal datasheet underscore 1. And so the thing that we have selected, which is the row that we're on, and check edit. Check edit is this little edit box right here. It's called check edit. Okay. If check edit dot value equals true, so since it's so anything that's a checkbox or a toggle control in PowerApps is a Boolean. So those are both either just true or false. It always has to just equal true or false. So if the value of the checkbox is true, which means I have it checked, then so this little double ampersand, that's this logic of saying that if this is the case and this is the case. So this if this and if all this and all of this, then do this. So also you have an operator you have like the double little pipes. The double pipe would be like this. That would be or. But in this case we're doing and, which is different than concatenate, which is only 1 ampersand. All right, so if that's the case and the gal datasheet 1, the ID is equal to this item ID. So I'm not sure selected is equal to this item. So I'm not sure, Chris, why this second part is in there. I'm sure that's in there for a reason, but basically it's saying if the one that you have selected ID is equal to this item ID, which I don't know how that wouldn't be the case. But so those are the two conditions. Sorry about that. I didn't really delve into that one before I started doing the demo. If those are the case, then change the display mode of this text box to edit. Otherwise, it's just going to be a display mode of view. So it's going to look like it's read only. So display mode edit, display mode view, edit, view. So all of these different, Chris said take it out and see what happens. Okay, I'll try that. That's a good way of dissecting it, huh? So all of these boxes have a display mode of the exact same thing. Those are all the same. So let's see. Yeah, I'll go take it out and see what happens. It's probably going to be one of those little weird nuanced things that only happens every now and then, but Chris figured out a workaround for it, and just to make sure that it never happens. Oh, look at that. Okay. So that's what it was. Thanks, Chris. He knew. All right, so when you check the box, you don't want it to put them all in edit mode. So there you go. That explains it. Thanks. All right, undo. Okay, so I took out that change that I just made. All right, so that's what that does. And then so that same display mode. Now what you could do is you could just select all of these boxes all in one fell swoop and and put the display mode in them like that all at once if you wanted to. He's also got something going on with the colors of the boxes around here. Now, we got to figure out a way to make it so that it unchecks another one when you check one. It's another little weird buggy thing. That's the fun thing about PowerApps is you get something working just right and then you'll just go try something else, or end users will go in there and start just clicking around and you're like, I didn't know it was going to do that. How did they make that happen? Like any kind of programming, probably. Like once you stick the end users on it, it's just like you never know what they're going to do, what they're going to click on. Does anybody else have that experience? Okay, so we edit, so we edit that, and then we got these boxes that appear around it. So that's going to be the border style. No, not the border style. Let's just go see. I'm going to just type border over here and see which one has the... Is it not doing anything special on the border? Text title _1 hover border color. Maybe it's just because it's focused border, and it's a focused border. It automatically did it. So Chris, did you do anything special to make the little blue boxes appear? Maybe he didn't. Oh yeah, no. Okay, cool. Well, it just automatically did that, and I think that's just when you change it to be edit, maybe that makes it be the focused border. But let's see, we could test that too. Pressed color, focused border. So I'll change the focused border to like focused border color to red. No, that's not what it is. Poking around in here. Color. Huh. I don't know which border that is. Well, I don't want to waste too much time on that. So that's what, when you edit it, it ends up looking different. So then also there's logic on these buttons. So first of all, the save button is not gonna appear until you're editing it. So let's go look at the visible. So this is got a similar piece of logic. Doing Shift Enter here, and this is the same logic that we have over in close that parenthesis there. I think this is the same concept that we have over when in the display mode for these boxes. So if the one that you have selected is true, so that means the box is checked, and the data sheet, the item in the data sheet is this item, so not all of them, right? Then otherwise it's hidden. Okay, so that's what we have going on with the save button. And then the patch is going to be, that's going to be where it gets really advanced. So that's why I wasn't sure about covering this solution in here. But so this is similar concept of what we talked about with the patching in that last solution, but this one is patching just directly to SharePoint. The other one was patching just to a collection, and then we'd have to like send it to SharePoint later, once we finish with our cart and we're ready to check out. But this one's just editing it directly in SharePoint as soon as you click the little save icon. So this is patching to the toys list in SharePoint. What is it patching? It's patching this item. So just that means this item in the row, and it's matching it up to the data in SharePoint. And it is taking the title, price, age, and part number. And he's just patching all 4 of those separate items. And what you have to do is when you're patching, when you type these names of these columns, you have to type the system name in SharePoint. So let's go over to SharePoint. Let's see. How do I quickly, if I've got all these little test lists and test stuff everywhere and I'm demoing this thing in PowerApps, how do I quickly just know what site to go to in SharePoint? I can click Edit Data here, and that one takes me directly to the SharePoint list. So let's go look at the list settings. Because in the list settings, Chris was careful to name these all just nice, simple names like price, age, part num. He didn't put any spaces or weird characters and stuff when he named them. And so these names that you see in SharePoint, see how when I'm hovering over them at the very bottom of the screen, you've got the source that's showing the name of it. Anyway, that's what I'm looking at as I hover over each of these. So that is the name that you need to use in here when you're patching or doing things like that to SharePoint. It's going to use that system name. So you have to go to SharePoint and make sure you use that exact thing that you have in there. And then he's sure to type in the title, in the title field, the price, and that's the value of what they typed in that price text box. And the age is the value that's typed in that age text box. And the part number is, it's not a value. It's just going to be a text field. So, because that could have maybe letters and numbers in it, and so it's just the text that's in that box. So in PowerApps, you can't just type the name of a control. You have to tell it that you want the text that's in the name of that control, and it's just sending it over to SharePoint. Yeah, so in there, and if you wanted to have new items, the patch syntax would be a little bit different. But this case, we didn't build an interface to add new ones. We just are looking at the existing list. And then the syntax for the visible for this X is the same as the other ones. And the X, what does it do? On select, this is doing a reset. So we have this concept of resetting in PowerApps, and that means that you can basically reset a control, which just clears it out and sets it back to how it was. And you can't just say like send a reset to say go, just like in InfoPath you used to be able to go set a field's value. You can't go set a field's value in PowerApps or set a reset from one button to a field or something like that. So I have to go have a variable that says set this variable reset to true or false. So it's setting this variable reset, and it's toggling it back and forth real quick, because we found that with toggling a reset and a lot of different things with toggles, like flipping it back and forth, a lot of times works a lot better than just flipping it one way. Yeah. Let's see. Yes, Nicholas, we're talking about the internal column name. Yeah, there are a lot of different ways you can look it up, but that's what I'm talking about. The internal name is what you first named a column when you named it. Thanks, Beth. That's awesome. You squealed last night when you got the email about Power Hour's topic today. Oh, that makes me happy. That's so cool. I squealed last night when I finally sent my newsletter out when it took me forever to put it together. I'm just kidding. Okay, so all right, so this variable reset, now where are we using that? So this variable reset is, let's go look at this. There's actually a reset property in here. So the value of the reset property in all these 4 of these boxes is the variable. So whatever the variable is, true or false, that's what the value of reset is. So when we click cancel, it toggles the variable reset, and then that's what resets the box to whatever it was before, and doesn't patch your changes over to SharePoint. Yeah. So Chris said the reset property needs to be set back to false to reset again in the future. So when you reset it, so that's a good way of explaining it. I didn't say that, did I? So he said, so when you reset it and you set it to true, which means the value is now reset back to what it was, but then you have to toggle it back to false again, so that if they try and edit that and change their mind again later, that it will be false and you'll be able to reset it again. So that's what he meant by that. Cool. Well, I think we covered a lot. I covered way more than I expected to be covering in this Power Hour. It was Yeah, we got a whole bunch of, because I didn't think I thought I was going to spend so much time on this thing that I didn't think I was going to get to that other one. But she says, can you reset it after you've hit the save button? Well, if you have a form, Stacy, and you're doing a submit form, there's actually a reset form function, thing that you can type. So instead you do a submit form and then a reset form right after it. And that's different so resetting the form just resets the whole thing. But the reset property just resets that, like, for that one particular control. So yeah, but you could do that exact same thing after you've hit the save button. So where in this case where we have it, we have the reset here in this on select, you could do this same thing like on your save button after it saves it or does whatever it's doing. There's also, so I won't get too far into that. Okay, so let's see. I'll flip back over to me. And we have, let's see, SharePoint, where is it? Conference. SharePointNA.com. This is going to be in Vegas, May 21st through 23rd. My session, my all-day PowerApps session, I want you guys to come to it and come in person. It is May 24th. It's a post-conference session, all-day PowerApps. Come learn from me. And when you register for the SharePoint conference, let's see, I'll put that in the chat here. Copy, paste, put that back up on the screen. When you register, you can use the code Rogers to get a $50 discount. $50, not 50%. And I'm doing a couple of different sessions. I'm doing one on approval processes, and I'm doing one on that all-day workshop on PowerApps. So who's going? Anybody? Roll call. Yay, Nicholas is going. I think so. Yeah, so that'll be good times. Anything else? Oh, we've got a PowerApps class. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. We added another PowerApps live class to our schedule. So when you go to iwmentor.com, now that's like front and center right here. We have PowerApps live, and it's going to be June 18th through 21st, and that's that same 4-day PowerApps class that we had one in January and March, so this is going to be in June. I couldn't have one in May because of the SharePoint conference. So yeah, so that is our class. Come and peruse. I'll copy that one too. Oh, well, Davina, it is recorded too. So yeah, I mean, we have a recorded version as well if you want to just not be there live, and the recorded version's a lot cheaper. So this PowerApps training, the second one, is the same exact class, just not live. And you don't get a student login in our tenant in this $500 one, but it's the same content, same class, just same labs and everything. Just yeah. In the live one, we have Q&As every morning, and like very interactive and that kind of thing. So alrighty, well, I'm not sure what our topic is for next week. We have an little hashtag ideas thing here in Slack where you can go there and type any ideas you have. I'll type it in here. And then you can vote on other people's ideas with like the little thumbs up and stuff like that in Slack. So cool. All right. Well, I guess I'll I forgot to stream it. I think I forgot to stream it to Facebook. Awesome. Oh well. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for coming, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.